Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Tuesday edition. Yes, Taco Tuesday. I may have tacos tonight. It is my final night of hosting trivia here in SoCal, so a little bit bittersweet, but at least it frees up my calendar just a little bit to have some fun on Tuesdays and maybe go do attend trivia as opposed to actually hosting it. So it should be a fun one tonight. Not as fun as my portfolio with regards to cryptocurrency and digital assets. Of course, you guys may have seen the headline for today's show, which was Bitcoin Liftoff. Now, I don't think that we have cleared that major hurdle, that major price obstacle, which is the all-time highs, but we came right up to it today, gave it a little, and then receded back down just a hair. So I want to talk a little bit about that, about what kind of the circumstances behind that is, what it might mean for us going forward, and then maybe dispel a few, not dispel, but clarify some questions that were sent in. So I'm going to start with this question that was sent in from Ken. And it says, do you think that Bitcoin's move is forecasting Trump victory? As we get down to crunch time with the election, I have a feeling we won't know who's going to be the president next week. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks to sort it all out and get through the bickering and saying that this was stolen and this was fraud and this was bad and this was miscounted and, all the things that most likely will happen. But do I think it's forecasting a Trump victory? And Ken, I think you asked that question because Trump has definitely come out as being very pro-crypto. And I don't think that Kamala is actually on the other side of this saying that she's anti-crypto. I mean, that was the Biden administration, and of course she was a part of that. But her stance has softened. So I wouldn't attribute this move in Bitcoin to the forecast that maybe Trump might win the election. If you're going to do anything like that, I think you look at DJT, right? DJT is kind of that the betting futures market, and apparently there's a lot of optimism circulating right now. I mean, I'm really just kind of shocked at how much this thing has moved. It's gone from about $11 all the way up to 51 today, up another 8% and more in the after-hour session already. So this is what I would say is your proxy for traders and speculators thinking that Trump might win. I personally just don't think that Bitcoin is that one. Might there be some positive ground for Bitcoin because if Trump wins? Yes. And I do think that it'll actually be positive ground if Kamala wins as well. I think that she is going to soften her stance from the current position. I think she'll go pro-Bitcoin. I don't think she'll be as pro-Bitcoin as Trump, but certainly that's a big part of it. Now, another piece that is driving this is you have major financial center, a huge Japanese bank just bought an investment firm, just bought a ton of Bitcoin. You also have the talk track. Margaret sent me an email or a message today on Twitter talking about how central banks are acquiring gold and stockpiling gold. Yeah, absolutely. And then starting next year with the Bank of International Settlements, BIS documentation, central banks can also hold Bitcoin as well. So I think that what we're witnessing is this compounding impact of a lot of things we've talked about in the show. Number one, the political positivity that's facing crypto right now, particularly for Bitcoin, because it's already passed the hurdles of it's not a security, it's a commodity, which now clears it for a lot of things. The second part is you have companies with so much money that will now potentially get the green light from a regulatory perspective to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. I think that is one that most people are not talking about, and I think that that's going to be the real screamer to the upside. So here's your daily chart. And of course, you can see today, this is the spot price. Our intraday high for the spot price was 73,600. Our intraday high price for the spot of all time is 73,794. So we were just a couple of bucks away from that today, $194 away from all-time highs before it receded. What do I expect to happen here? Well, you guys tell me, what would you expect to happen as something hits all-time highs and has a little bit of a pullback? To me, I think you'll see a little bit of a pullback here, but not much. Like, I definitely do not think you're getting back down to 66,000. I think you might come back down to 70 and then proceed to do its move to the upside. As Margaret posts in the I thought I saw it. It was you had something there. Oh, it was Liz. It says, regardless of the election, Bitcoin has done its usual 6-month post-halving chop, so it's due for its liftoff anyway. It's likely at the perfect storm for it to rocket. I 100% agree with you, and I mean, I've been saying this since before the halving, right? I've been saying here's what happens after the halving historically. And again, there's nothing about being an oracle or being a predictor. It's saying, historically, this is what it has done over and over and over again. And if all does come to fruition, those of us who've been toughing it out over the past few months, a couple years since we've had the big sell-off, you're about to be rewarded in a big, big way. So I've got my fingers crossed on this one that things do continue to go. I was really excited to see it have such a strong move today. If you go from the tail here just on last Friday, from bottom to peak here, I'm not on snap mode, excuse me. You're looking at a move up in Bitcoin in just 4 days of 12.5%. Love it, right? Obviously, since it's my number one holding in my portfolio, I'm really loving it. But I'll be honest, I think we just barely started. I think we will see a significant amount of more move to the upside in Bitcoin. And, for those of you who have altcoins and carrying other cryptos, it will carry a majority of this up. Now, I always am the advocate of diversification. I also would say if you had to pick one crypto to hold, it'd be Bitcoin. Just because it's already passed all these major regulatory things. Bitcoin has been said by the SEC and the CFTC and other regulators that it's not a security. It's a commodity. Great. Now, there still is a gray area with Ethereum and Solana and Algorand and Avalanche and Sui and Aptos. All these other ones have maybe some potential issues from a regulatory perspective. That's that big unknown we just don't know with crypto. Now, if Trump wins, we know that's going to be a real big boom for Bitcoin. The question I have is, what does it do to other cryptos? And given the fact that Trump is already creating his own crypto, well, he's being partnered up with people that are creating the crypto, he's just putting his name on it, I'm pretty sure he'll start to put regulatory pieces in place that open up the doorway to more discovery for crypto overall. So I've mentioned this long ago, that if your one issue that you're hanging your hat on as an American citizen is crypto, then the vote should be abundantly clear. However, there's many other much more important things in our society to be voting for, whether that's women's rights, whether that's the Ukraine, whether that's immigration, whether that's healthcare. There's so many more important things than just crypto. So we can't pigeonhole it into one category, but if you had to, yeah, Trump would definitely be the winner there. There's other areas where we can make arguments for either candidate, but this is not a political show, and I don't want to take it there. So, Ken, I do not think that this run is forecasting a Trump victory. What I do think it's forecasting is weaknesses of governments and fiat currencies. The U.S. is putting itself in a very difficult spot by taking on more and more debt. The rumors are that China is about to do another massive round of stimulus spending. And when you have a massive round of stimulus spending, that means more risk on investment, and that could push Bitcoin up even further. So as I look across the spectrum, and I'm trying to be objective, you guys all know I'm pretty bullish on Bitcoin overall. But if you try to look at things objectively, as I think you should as a trader, always step back and say, my opinion is this, but let's put that on the table and forget about it. I'm going to go to the negatives and the positives. I see far more stuff that's positive than negative with regards to Bitcoin. So I'm great. Let's see. I got a whole bunch of messages here. Amazing. I am hoping Bitcoin will get back to 62 area to buy some more. I think you may have missed that boat, Steve. I told you, I don't think it'll ever get back to 60. It literally hit it 2 days later and has not been back since. And I think 60's a bygone era now. In 2 or 3 years, we'll look back and go, man, do you remember when Bitcoin was like 40,000, 50,000? TJ's last call today was very good in election speculation, focusing on bonds and dollar. Oh, good. I have to check that one out. Those guys are good. I humbly believe Harris will be negative for crypto. She might be. The thing is, Daniel, and she's now, see, we believe that because she's coming from the Biden administration, right? She's obviously VP. And Biden has very clearly been against it. She, I believe, is a little bit more informed. She has been meeting with industry experts. She's actually getting money from Ripple. So Ripple's been sending her millions of dollars. That's a very positive thing. And, I think that if she were to sit down with, some of the stalwarts, the bellwether guys in the industry, it's like, look, if you push crypto out, you are pushing jobs out of the country. They will go elsewhere because this industry is not going to die. It's going to continue to thrive just wherever it has the most support. I think she's smart enough to realize that and change her stance a little bit. If if I was running for president right now, and forget all my other views on anything, but you have to ask me what my stance is on crypto, I would say I am pro-cryptocurrency and digital assets so far as these projects benefit society and don't steal money from investors. Therefore, there are things like Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, Bonk, Floki, all these coins that do literally nothing and there's no project, no community, no development team. Those are now outlawed on all U.S. exchanges. I also will have a protocol put in place that has an oversight board at the SEC that says you have to review at the SEC level, Securities and Exchange Commission, every crypto project that gets listed on a U.S. exchange. So if I create the Merlin coin and I'm over there with Coinbase saying, hey, list this coin, and I give them $100,000 to list it, and they do, the SEC can go, we'll fine you for that. That has not been approved by us. Now, what we need to do is get people in place that understand the projects, can review it like a development team. You know, we have Joe in here who's in my crypto sessions, and you know, when I analyze a project, I put my opinions aside and I just look at it and say, what are they trying to do? How are they doing it? Who's the development team? Is it a unique idea? Are they actually doing something? And from that, I can formulate an opinion and potentially put that in my portfolio. I think that there needs to be someone at a higher level that goes, no, that's right away a scam, a fraud. You know, and there should be someone who is experienced in crypto and understands and can go to the developers and meet them and say, what are you doing? You know, we have that with the stock exchange. We have that with the SEC approving stocks to be listed for an IPO. We have nothing like that for crypto. So I think that board needs to be created. Then I vote for Merlin. Yeah. You know, look, and I think, I mean, if I was president, I think I'd be extremely pro-crypto. Think of the thousands of jobs this creates. That's money coming into the economy. That's wealth for people in the United States. That's consumption, which drives the economy even more. This is a win-win-win, but because it's so, you know, dark cloud hovering over it of just unknown regulatory-wise, companies are skeptical. Businesses are skeptical, right? Businesses don't want to accept crypto because I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah, it's the volatility of crypto, but I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble. Are there issues with me and my accountants, with regulators and the IRS when I decide to do my taxes? I don't know. If we can get that defined and clarified, then businesses will just go, sure, I'll pay. I mean, I made this point the other day. You pay 3% to Visa to make a transaction. The business loses that 3%. Of course, they charge you, the consumer, so you're actually paying that 3%. But if I use something like Solana or EOS, my commissions are a fraction of a penny. The business saves money. That cost saving should get passed on to you, the consumer. Therefore, we get deflationary prices for a little bit, and things become much more efficient, much faster, much more transparent. This is a win-win. Who loses? Good question. The US dollar would probably have an impact, which is why I think you're seeing some more resistance. Yeah, Lori says, at least I'm not a convicted felon. Hey, I don't even have a misdemeanor. I better knock on some wood, but I've made it this far without any issues with law enforcement. I will say, though, I was put in handcuffs once. Just so you know, in full disclosure, I was put in handcuffs once at a party I was hosting in Northern California on my own residence. I had about 400 people at a Halloween party when I lived up there, and I did invitation only. And some people showed up that came every year, and the doorman said, you got to have an invite, you can't come in. So when they left, their car backfired. One of the neighbors thought it was a shotgun, so they called the cops. And then, of course, the cops wouldn't leave me alone, and one thing led to another. And they put cuffs on me until finally I agreed to break at the party. But that's about it. That's the extent of my criminality there. Tasty, it was an hour after the close, not with Tom. Okay, so I'll check it out. I'd like to see who it was. I might like to bring him on this show. It'd be fun to have him on. So if you're betting on the Trump victory, go with DJT. I saw in here just a second ago, someone was saying that they won't let you short DJT. Really? I could understand why, because it's probably hard to borrow. Also, it's a risk management tool. You saw this happen with Robinhood. Remember when we had GameStop and AMC do their colossal spikes, right? That all those movies are made about. They froze people's ability to buy it and also short it. Right? All you could do was sell the shares that you own. That was pretty much it, which of course forces price to go down. So, you know, you got to be, if you're shorting DJT, which trust me, I've been looking at this going, I would like to short this as well. just because there's nothing here. I think that this, if you're along DJT, I think what this is going to be is a lose-lose situation. I think right now it's in that position of it can do really well because of speculation and speculative investments of people buying this thing with the assumption that Trump is going to win the election. When he wins the election, then it's going to be like, okay, now what? It's going to tank. It'll tank from there. It'll be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. So, maybe next week, if you can find a way to short this thing, go for it. I mean, I may put my money where my mouth is as well, but it would be after the election. Whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter. I think this is still going to come crashing down after the election because, again, I feel it's been used as a proxy for Trump's constituency or base believing he's going to win. And, maybe he does win. I don't know. I don't really care, honestly, who wins the election. I just like it to be over so I can move forward and build my portfolio around the issues that current administration is going to support and move away from ones that they're going to go against. So, yeah, I think next week, let's put a little vertical line here. Vertical line, November 7th. Actually, November 5th is the voting day? Is it 4th or 5th? There you go. I'll put it right there. I think it's the 5th will be when we're going to know. Steve says, if 0 people can short a product, it can't go down. He owns 70%. Well, it can go down if people sell. So it's shorting is just is a second component of selling pressure. Right? Obviously, selling is the original one, but it will go down when people try to lock in profits. Yeah, so I put Tuesday on there, Tuesday the 5th. Yep. I wonder if they'd close your shorts if you sold a call or just buy. I don't even know. I'll have to check that out. I'll look at it tomorrow and see what the options look like on that bad boy. But to Ken's question there, no, I don't think that Bitcoin move is forecasting a Trump victory. I really don't. Certainly, I think if he does win, I think you'll see another huge move, another big move. Let's quickly take a peek at earnings today. Obviously, there's some big news out there. I saw you guys talking about the NQ popping in the after-hour session. Yeah. You've got a nice move up in the markets today. At least NASDAQ was up on the day. Russell was down, and we'll call S&P somewhat short, or somewhat neutral. From the earnings front, though, we've got a couple different names here. I'll start with Alphabet, and I'm just going to do this kind of quickly. They did great. Alphabet looked really good. They came out at $2.12 per share was their number. They were expected to make $1.85. So that's a good beat on earnings per share. Their revenue was beating also by over 1.9 billion. I mean, that's a good revenue beat, 1.9 billion. YouTube advertising revenue, increasing on advertising revenue. Their cloud revenue was surging as well. Their acquisition costs got a little bit higher, right? But other than that, their numbers look absolutely fantastic. And you look over here at Google. Doesn't look like much right now, but it's up 4.68% in the after-hour session. Where does that put us? It puts us right where this little blue line is, and now we're breaking out of the head and shoulder pattern. We actually broke it today. If you guys are real technical people, you see the little candle we had today. This literally was your breakout of the inverse head and shoulders pattern, and that means if this does come to fruition, you're looking at a price target of roughly 197 for Google. And I'll be honest, with good momentum, it could hit that in a week or so. That's great. Good earnings, good news for anybody who's long tech stocks. That's your earnings number one. Number two, AMD. Sorry for the vertical bar right there. I was trying to get my alignment set up, but see if it works. They came out at 92 cents per share versus the expectation. So that was in line with earnings. And then you had their revenue was 6.8 billion versus 6.7. So all in all, you think not bad for AMD. However, their forecasts going forward were not as optimistic as what people wanted. Their numbers, expectations were just not what people wanted to hear. They came out, for the day, they were up 3.96%. You can see they've given back the last 4 days worth of trading on that earnings. They're now down here 154, where this little blue line is. So certainly a big pullback on this one. Does it mean that this uptrend that started back in August is over? I don't know. I don't think so. If we get down below this low from October 23rd, which is $150.50, $150.50, then I would say this current uptrend would be broken. So not the best news from AMD. And I just put Visa on here as well, just so we could kind of check out what Visa did. They looked great, of course, because they're making tons of money because people using credit cards Came out at $2.71 per share versus an expectation of $2.58, so good beat there. And then also their revenue, $9.61 billion versus $9.48 expected. So win-win for Visa. Visa in your after-hours session, there you go, is up 2% on that news, right where that little blue line is. So not bad, not bad. All in all, I think Alphabet's the most important one here. And of course, when you look at those NQ futures, here's your NASDAQ. Let's go to a 5-minute. You can see the nice little pull that Google had on this bad boy. All right. Wow, it actually gave it back up fairly quickly. I was surprised. So right as we closed right here, the Google numbers came out. We shot up and now, for whatever reason, had a big drop back down. And now we're kind of flatlining. So, all right. They're following you. So when NVIDIA goes, so does, yeah, I agree with you on that one, Oliver. Let's go NVDA. Of course, we've got a few weeks for NVIDIA. Oops, this is 5 minutes. Let's bring it up to a daily. There we go. So we've got earnings for NVIDIA is going to be on November 20th. So we got a few weeks until we get to there. But all in all, things still look great for NVIDIA. You know, you're looking at an ascending triangle on NVIDIA. You're smacking against those all-time highs. We've actually broke through them. But if you're going to do an ascending triangle, you kind of look right there. This looks great. I mean, it does look like it's going to continue to keep on moving higher. What I really like is the disclosure from these companies on how many of these processors they've bought from NVIDIA. Now, I didn't get a chance to listen to the conference call or read through the earnings report from Google or Alphabet today, but I do want to go through there, and I'm literally going to type in and search through the PDF for H100s, A100s, and see how many of these chips does Google have. If Tesla is saying they've got 50,000 of them online, they have 29,000 online right now, and they have 50,000 online by the end of October. That is a Herculean feat to bring up 21,000 of these servers within the next week. Like, that is phenomenal. And I'm curious how many Google has. In the press conference, Sundar Pichai, the CEO, was talking about how the AI segment really has been helping. They said they're finally getting traction on their AI and getting that rate of return. Remember the previous time they reported, you guys might remember this one when we look at Google. Previous time they reported their earnings was back here. There were negative comments about that, about how much money they were spending and not getting that rate of return. And we fell from $184, kept on plummeting all the way down to lows of 147, and now looks like we're moving back up here. So very interesting what's gone on with Google. Really interesting about face just in one quarter. It was AI investments not paying off. Now all of a sudden, hey, we're seeing it. It's paying for itself already, which to me tells me that this next quarter is probably going to be a much, much bigger move to the upside. Why am I blurry on YouTube? Green screen resolution. Am I blurry on the camera today? Yeah, it feels like I'm blurry. It might be auto adjust. Hold on, let me see if I can. Sometimes I do this and it resets it. Apologize for that, but I don't know. Yeah, I kind of do feel like it's blurry too. It's probably my camera. I went and used it for a party. I set up a photo booth. I'll fix that one for tomorrow, guys. I'm not sure why I'm blurry. I should be on autofocus here and everything should be fine, but I moved it downstairs and yeah, I used it for a party and set up a photo booth and maybe settings got changed. Merlin, expect some pullback after elections before the Santa Claus rally. You know, Mike, it's a great question. I'll try to keep myself off camera just because I look ugly today with my dyed hair. If we look at that S&P 500, you know, I do feel like there's going to be some pullback here, but the trend is telling me that there's not going to be. So when I think of, you know, the kind of opportunity cost, what should I be doing with my capital? I still think you should be long. I still think that you need to be long these markets. I mean, look, the S&P, barring this one pretty significant pullback we had here in July, you got higher highs, higher lows. It looks really, really good. If you look at that NASDAQ, granted, we're almost back to those all-time highs, but the bottom we put in here in August, we're making higher highs and higher lows. So for me right now, this trend is to the upside. I think it looks fine. You got to stay long. Now the Russell, looking a little bit better, right? You see it really kind of trucking higher lows, breaking through the highs. So out of those three I've looked at so far, I'd say the Russell looks the best. And again, I was mentioning that I do think in a lowering rate environment that Russell will benefit more. Yeah, I mean, my gut tells me there is going to be a pullback. The problem is trying to time that, right? That's the big problem, is knowing, hey, there is going to be a pullback, Mike. No, 100% guarantee it. I was actually on a call with Todd Davis of Trading Academy. It was awesome. And he said something on the call. He goes, I guarantee that this market's going to sell off. And I was like, you can't say those words, right? The whole FTC garbage. Words like guarantee you can't use. And he goes, no, I can say it because he's right. Todd is 100% right. Over the course of history, we will see a massive sell-off in the market. I just don't know when it's going to come. So what I don't want to do is put my opinions that we're going to see a big sell-off at the forefront of my plan and therefore position myself short as the market is still making higher highs. Reality tells me, Mike and others here, that if you are thinking that it's going to have a big pullback, then you need to find out what's your circuit breaker. What's that trigger for you, right? So let me just make it easy for everybody. As an example, this is not saying this needs to be your line. This is just an example. But if you look here, you've got this bottom that was just put in on the S&P on October 23rd, and then it's had a nice slow creep up. No real clear action, no big days. I mean, it's been 4 days of small action, right? Real weak. So, to me, if it breaks below 5,800, then you're out of your long positions, right? You're out of your long positions. If it were to break down here below, let's say 57.25, 57.24, now I'm probably loading up short positions because not only have we broken a most recent low, we're breaking a swing or pivot low. Therefore, I think we start to move back down. But yeah, you can't just go, well, I think we're going to have a pullback. Let's short it right now. You'll get killed. It's just a recipe for disaster. I've seen more accounts blown that way. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So great question, Mike. Appreciate that one. Let's see. Margaret says NVIDIA is a monopoly. For now, they are. They, you got to love them. And I love that some of you guys have been long that one for a long time. That's fantastic. Good. Let me see. July was a buying opportunity. Yes, it was. That big pullback was definitely a buying opportunity. The NASDAQ will hit 50,000, he says. Over time, sure. Yep. The NASDAQ will hit 50,000. Guarantee it. Over time. Over the course of history, sure, it will. Yeah, those are those crazy kind of guarantees. Take the Michael Burry trade and you don't have the media. Yeah, I don't want the Michael Burry trade. I don't like that. Not for me. Could be camera too far out. No, it's the same distance, Batista. Hey, good to see you. Been a while. It's the same distance. I just I don't think I changed any settings here, but I'll have my buddy come in and help me out with this one. It should be on. Everything should be full auto. Yeah, it's ISO auto. All my settings should be fine. So I'll fix this one. Exactly, Big Ev. I know what you're talking about. And let me see. Here's the last one. Let's get to this. Wait, how much time I got? Okay, we got plenty of time. Wow, it feels like a long show today. So just so I don't have to look at the 1980s version of Merlin with my pixelated view, like, should I do my max headroom? Max. Here's the next question from Michael G. And thank you, Michael. He says, do you think the NYSE petition to open trading for 22 hours a day is a good thing? I would love to get your guys' input on here. So type in a chat. It might take me a second to read it. A simple yes or no. And if you can, just a quick little blurb on why you think yes or no. So the question is, do you think that the New York Stock Exchange opening the market to 22-hour-a-day trading is a good thing? I mean, and I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I'll give you my feedback on this in just a minute. For now, let me show you what the current hours are. Right, so we've got 24-hour trading, like my 22-hour trading is my graphic. Currently, we are open from, these are all Eastern times, by the way, from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we all know that you can trade from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time, right? That's the NYSE hours. And what's significant about that is during those hours for the NASDAQ and for NYSE, participants, whether they're a specialist or a market maker, are required to trade at that time. They have to have a buy order and a sell order in place at that time. They can't not have an order out there. So they have to have a buy order and sell order at all times. Outside of that window of time between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern, outside of those hours, they're not required to be there at all. So liquidity is just gone. It vaporizes. So that's the basis for it. Now, what's the new hours going to look like? The new hours are going to go from 1:30 a.m., 1:30 in the morning to 11:30 p.m. So you're basically closed for 2 hours from 11:30 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. All right. So let's see what you guys say. I'm going to keep this here so you guys don't have to look at my blurry face. Mike says, good for scalping, provided there's enough liquidity at the time. Yes, scalpings can be dangerous, Mike. That after-hour session is dangerous. Oliver says, doesn't matter because you still have to buy the London close anyway. Christopher, I want volatility squeeze to an 8-hour session. Okay, great point there. Now, yes, because events and businesses happen 24/7. You still wouldn't have institutional trading overnight. No change because volume will be during business hours. Cool. Why does it need more than that? All right. Yes, it just speeds up price action, but not change anything. Cool. Steve says, no, the break it has lets everyone regain their bearings. It would crash for 22 hours in a row and needs some downtime for perspective. Okay. And then let's see. Les says, yes, Globex works. I only trade futures, so it's long hour. Oh, yeah. Well, futures is a different ballgame. Okay, so here's my take on it. I would say, yes, it's good for markets. Now, Christopher is totally right here. He says, I want volatility squeezed into the 8-hour session. You will still get, let's pick an NYSE stock. Let's look at Goldman Sachs, right? Here's GS. I'm going to shrink this down into a 1-minute time. I'll do 5-minute time frame to make it easy. Look, and I'll put volume on here. There's nothing that happens in the after hours anyway. These gold boxes, that's the after hour. There's nothing going on there. Crickets, goose egg. Now, what's something that's like, what would be like Visa, right? So Visa in the after hour had some big volatility, but you notice over time, like those yellow boxes, it's flat. There's nothing happening there. So Chris is still correct. The volatility will still be squeezed to regular market hours. That won't change. I think where this benefits you and I is, let's say it's 2 o'clock in the morning and something really bad happens. Heaven forbid something really bad happens. You can instantly jump in there and be buying or selling stocks, needed whatever the news may be. And if you're first to that, you can front run. If you want to get out of a position, great. Now, futures markets, of course, you got that quasi 24 hours, called a 23 and a half hour trading day. Great. You can use futures for that. But many people don't have a futures account. So I think this opens the door to more people getting more involved with trading. So personally, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's going to take the volume away from the regular market hours, but it does open the door to, hey, I own some Cisco and I want to dump it at 3 in the morning. I can't. Now you could. Now you can because of these rules. So not yet, right? It needs approval from the regulators, but all in all, I think it's fine. Look, it should all be 24 hours anyway. There's no reason this shouldn't be 24/7, 365, right? Keep the market open if people want to buy and sell when it's illiquid times. That's their prerogative. They just need to be known. Margaret says futures move overnight. Correct, because most people that are trading overnight are going to use that futures market. Now, I think why NYSE is doing this is opening the door to more international markets, saying, hey, while we're asleep here in the U.S., if you over in Europe or Russia want to trade U.S. markets, we're open. We'll take that business. So I think it's a grab to get some more business. Granted, it may not be that much, but it's getting more attention, more business. And I think for me as a trader, I like it because I have the ability to get in and out of positions in the wee hours of the morning. But I'm always going to be hurting because of liquidity, right? I mean, Visa, let's just go, I'm going to go to daily here, and I'll go to Visa. Visa, on an average day, is trading like 4 million shares. Plenty of volume. But when I go to let's say a 5-minute time frame, and I look at after hours, it's trading 8 shares, 16 shares, 6 shares, 1 share, 3 shares. Nothing. And so, if we do get that 22-hour trading on NYSE, you better know the risks to you. The spreads during this after-hour session are going to be huge, like extremely wide. Right now, Visa just reported earnings, and it's got a lot of volatility out on it. The spread right now, after its earnings announcement, is $1.25. It's 287.25 by 288.50. So you get a $1.25 spread on this. Now, I know someone mentioned there for scalping, if you got some risk tolerance, you could certainly buy at the bid, sell at the ask. You can put those limit orders out there, and if you get filled at the bid at 287.25, flip over, sell that at 288.50, make $1.25 per share. Cool. You could do that, but it's risky. It's very risky. Trust me, I made a living doing this. It's risky, particularly in things that have very low liquidity. And as you can tell on this chart, Visa was nice liquidity during the day. And as soon as that bell rang, even with their earnings numbers, horrible liquidity. All right. And you look at something like Google. Google even, let's go back a couple of days, right? After hours. Here's Google from the 28th. Crickets. 1 share traded in a 5-minute window. 500 shares. So there's a little bit, but most of it's nothing. Now today, obviously we've got very high volume because it's earnings, but tomorrow after close, it's not going to do much. Gary says, are the current hours actually a holdout from the old analog early days of trading? Yeah. It's a weird progression as far, remember, it used to be you could trade between 9:30 and 4 and that was it. There was no pre-market trading. And then in the in the late 90s, we started getting electronic trading systems. And I think it was 1988 was called SOS, which is Small Order Execution System. They called them the SOS Bandits. And when they came in, you could now buy and sell directly from market makers using electronic networks. That's really the result of court cases back in the late 80s by a guy named Harvey Houtkin. You guys are getting a history lesson here. Harvey Houtkin basically sued the market saying, no. You guys can use these electronic systems, but we as retail people are not allowed to touch them. That's BS. So he sued, he won. All of a sudden, you and I could use what's called SOS, Small Order Execution System. Then it progressed to ECNs, electronic communication networks like Island, Daytech. There were a whole bunch of these cool little networks out there that you could use to not only communicate with market makers directly. Remember, SOS was to talk to a market maker. That's it. You could buy from a market maker or sell from a market maker. That was it. Once ECNs came along, I could now represent myself in the market. I could make my own bid prices, my own offer prices. That changed everything. That started that extended hours trading. The electronic network, the exchanges don't have extended hours trading. It's these electronic networks built around like Globex, like Arca. The Arca network is what provides NYSE its after hours trading. So basically it's just saying, can we have approval to extend that? And honestly, it should be 24/7, but we'll get there. You know, one of the things I'm so big with cryptocurrency and digital assets is the future is bright enough that this will all be 24 hours a day, 365 with no maintenance ever. And that's what crypto is. Crypto right now is the only market in the world that never sleeps, never stops, never breaks, never stalls, nothing. 365, period. Love it. Would options also trade more hours? Not to begin with. Those are different instruments, right? Different exchanges. But I think that would be a keep up with the Joneses type of mentality of, well, if we can now get more extended hours trading for equities, we should have more extended hours trading for options. And again, all markets should be 24/7, in my opinion. KF says, I love when you share your wisdom. My pleasure, KF. No problem. I always appreciate your support and your patience for my The House Always Wins episode. That took me a long time to get that one done. Margaret says, we'll bring in more European volume. Certainly to bring in more volume from everywhere, right? The U.S. markets are still revered as the best, most efficient, largest markets in the world. So I think when you say we're closed, people are going to go elsewhere. And if we're open, maybe you get that continued volatility. So I think it's a very good thing. Merlin, is it possible to buy Bitcoin through an LLC or corporation? Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is open an account at Coinbase. I don't think it matters who you are. I mean, look, I'm an LLC under my own name. So I'm running my own. I can open an account. I could buy Bitcoin as Merlin. I could probably buy it underneath my corporate name. It depends if Coinbase would allow me to do it under a corporate name. I don't know. But I don't see why that would be a problem. I don't see why that'd be a problem at all. And daily options execution. Yes. Yeah, zero DTE on everything. It should be there. The problem is that's just too many instruments, right? Zero DTE expirations on everything. That'd be a bit too much. So, all right. And I think, is that the last piece I had to cover? That was. I got everything done and I'm in 40 minutes. Wow. It's going to be a short show today. Okay, let's real quickly talk about some of this economic data. We talked about the earnings. We talked about getting a self-directed 401k. Yep, you get self-directed 401k. You can get self-directed IRAs, right? And then you can put them in pretty much whatever you want. I'll be honest, I personally think you should stay away from these companies that say, hey, we're an IRA that allows you to invest in 401ks. Come with us. Look, you don't need it anymore. You can go and you could do self-directed. And if you want to go directly to markets, you could use things like BITO, right? Buy BITO, and now you have Bitcoin exposure. If you want to actually own physical Bitcoin, there might be some other steps involved there. But how about the Halloween decorations photos? All right, I'll get to that on our Friday show because I have the trick-or-treaters coming Thursday. That's usually when I'll take the big video. I didn't have the fog machines going, so when I get the fog machines going, it looks even better. The bots go beep, boop, beep, boop. That's true, John. So John, with his cryptic message there, the bots go beep, boop, beep, boop. Most of it's going to be automated algorithms anyway. So when you trade after hours, do so with very small share size. Even if you have 1,000 shares and you need to get out. So let's say you have 1,000 shares of something and some bad news happens, you're like, I want to dump it. Don't dump 1,000 shares all at once because you're going to crater that market. What you should do is sell 100 and see what happens. Because if it's automated with AI or in algorithms, they'll probably, every transaction is just going to move. And they're out there at the minimum, which is typically 100 shares. So I would be very careful after hours. How about Merlin, the election show? So Steve, I've talked to Larry, and Larry is teaching all week until 3 p.m. The only day that he's free is Monday at, for 2 p.m. And I'm supposed to be recording all day with him on Monday. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to squeeze him into the show on Friday because the election, I kind of waited too long on this one, and I didn't realize that he was going to be teaching that late in class here in Irvine. Of course, that's the priority, right? Not this show. The priority is the students. So I'm going to try to get him on Friday because he ends usually early on a Friday, and then he'll come on the show. So that's the fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I can do after 3. Hey, Merlin, do you mind talking a little bit about Ethereum, please? Buy and hold? Sure. This is a tricky one, okay? What's your name? Bakir. That's interesting. The Q throws me out. Bakir. If you look at Ethereum is the juggernaut. It's the number 2 cryptocurrency out there, but it's losing market share quickly. You have competitors like Solana, which is my number 3 holding, and I do like Solana. Its ecosystem's getting bigger and better. But you also have new upstart ones like Sui, Aptos, and there's some other ones that are promising even greater things than Solana can. And they're starting to get some traction. So what you have is the OG Ethereum, which is slow, but it still has the biggest community out of all crypto, right? It's got the biggest community of users, of applications. Ethereum is still the juggernaut. The challenge is Ethereum is not upgrading fast enough, in my opinion. And there are some new upgrades coming that may help this out. And if they do get those upgrades in place, then we will see their block time increase. We'll see everything speed up, which will handle more transactions and allow them to process more and get more done. However, their process and development is slow. They're moving slowly to get this stuff done and upgrades to the system. So I think that as time goes on, unless they make these upgrades quickly, which allow for more scalability, so there's 2 kind of technologies that are going to be involved here for this to happen. One is called sharding, S-H-A-R-D-I-N-G, making sure you enunciate that one correctly, which is taking the blockchain and essentially breaking it up into small little segments so that you can parallel process. Like this group over here works on this piece of it, this piece, and this piece, so now I can get a lot more accomplished. That would one way to increase transactions. That's sharding. The second one's called ZK rollups, or zero knowledge proof rollups. And essentially what that means is you batch them on another level. You have all these transactions done here and then combine them in one transaction and move them down to the blockchain, which speed things up. Now that is already being done with things like Optimism, Arbitrum, Polygon, Matic, right? Those are layer 2 solutions designed to help that layer 1. But in my opinion, that takes business away from Ethereum. It creates dependency on Ethereum, but the business is now being done on those layer 2 solutions. So Ethereum has talked about doing their own layer 2 kind of solution for the ZK rollups and sharding. If we get those 2 things, then Ethereum will continue its ascent. But right now, it's a little concerning just because it says 15 transactions per second here. That's not much. It's not really enough to handle wide-scale adoption of crypto. Now you look at Solana, right? There's Solana's price chart. They're doing, I don't know why I labeled this down here. I think I was doing a class, so I just kind of marked this out. You're looking at 65,000 transactions per second. The chart looks a lot better than Ethereum, right? So Ethereum had a much bigger sell-off. Solana kind of held its own here, looking okay, now trending nicely. But then you have new participants. You have SWE. SWE is much faster than Solana, can handle much more transactions per second, but there's not a big community on it yet. It doesn't have the same sort of ecosystem or developers on that project quite yet. How is Doge? Doge is garbage. Doge doesn't do anything. Doge is a copy of Bitcoin that not a lot of people use, right? No one's accepting it, and people just kind of look at it as kind of a joke because this was literally started as a joke. Now, to Margaret's question, which is why I think you're asking this, Margaret, is because you're having Elon Musk as the Doge. He's going to be the Doge, which was the Department of Government Efficiency expert, right? DOGE. I think it's a play on words. I believe that Elon was probably talking to Trump and said, hey, let's call it the Doge position. And they both laughed at it. And I do think you will see Doge run because of if Trump wins. Because Elon Musk will say, I'm the Doge father, I'm the king of Doge, and we'll pump it just for fun. So yes, I think Doge will have some upside potential. As far as a longevity project that's got legs for the next decade, I don't see it. I don't think so. I don't think it's, there's just not a lot of people using it right now. And again, Elon Musk has said, I was going to buy more Bitcoin, but I want something that's more environmentally friendly. Well, Doge is proof of work, which is high energy consumption. So Doge won't work either. What he really should be looking at is things like, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, SWE, Aptos. Those are much more energy efficient and can handle a lot more. But I'm not a fan of Doge at all. All right, KF. It's a pretty hectic week for me, but I'm down to get a beer. Just email me and we'll set something up. Is ETH better by this point? It seems like it's lagging Bitcoin. I tell you, I'm not buying any more Ethereum. If I'm going to buy a layer 2 solution, I've been wanting to buy SWE just to have some exposure to it because I do think that there's some potential there. But Solana is probably, if I'm going layer 1 networks, Solana is the one I would be acquiring. I mean, actually, the only thing I've been doing here, really buying lately, is just Bitcoin in small pieces. I haven't made any big acquisitions in crypto in a while. My portfolio is substantial enough where I don't need to go too crazy on it. Could it be assigned for a purpose? You mean Dogecoin? In theory, yes. You could say, oh, well, Doge is going to be the currency for, let's just throw a crazy hypothetical out there. Now, please don't take this and be like, Merlin said this is going to happen, because I do not believe this is going to happen. But could it? The answer is yes. Could Elon Musk say, we're going to use X as the payment rail for X? Sure. He could plug that in, set it up where Dogecoin is now the payment network for X. And now you got a monetary system that you can now do all your transactions through on X. And if you want to be a part of X, you got to use Dogecoin. Could he do that? Yes. Yes, he could. However, part of owning a business is about control. So if I'm Elon Musk, I have no control over Doge. Now, granted, I could probably go out to the community and say, listen, I got a bigger say now. I'm going to do this and this and this. Here's what we're going to do. They'd probably listen to him because they're all going to get rich off of Elon Musk. I think it's more likely that Elon Musk, if it does get to that point, will probably create one of his own, much like PayPal did with their own stablecoin, right? He'll probably create his own stablecoin and use that as the payment rail for X. So I don't think he'd go out there and use Dogecoin. I think the reason that Elon Musk likes talking about Doge and pumps it all the time is because it's a joke. And he's said it publicly before because I think it'd be ironic if the thing that was the joke became the one that's successful, right? So yeah, not a huge fan of Dogecoin. I mean, does it have potential? Could it soar? It absolutely could. I'm looking long term. I just don't see it. There's too many other projects that would outshine it. All right, Skilled Stockton says, Merlin just got in. Can you talk about how much dollar would be worth if we never went off the gold standard? Oh, that's a John O'Donnell question. And what could happen if we did go back on the gold standard? If we went back to the gold standard, the value of the dollar would soar, skyrocket, because now it's actually backed by something real, which is why we'll never go on it. Look, we owe so much money. We owe so much money to everybody in the world, which is just insane to me. The higher this dollar goes, the more expensive that debt is. So if anything, the government wants this dollar to be as weak as humanly possible. Push it lower and lower and lower and just whatever you can, crush the dollar, because the weaker that dollar is, the fewer dollars, the easier it is for me to service the debt that we owe. And again, the debt is going up at a parabolic curve. It's not going down. If we put our currency backed by backed by gold, this would start to move up significantly. And the other part of this, skilled stocksman, is, and I think that this is an interesting point, is if we went to the gold standard, you guys type in the chat, yes or no, just curious what it would be. I think I know the answer here. If we went back to the gold standard and the government says we're going to back all of our currency by gold, and here we go, now we're backed by gold, would anybody in here trust that they actually did have the gold to back that up and they were actually sticking to a 1-to-1 kind of ratio here with gold to their dollars? I mean, given what's gone on, I find it hard pressed to see anybody in here feel comfortable believing that it would be backed actually by real gold. Now, if we did it with Bitcoin, then it'd be a totally different story. If the US backed their currency with Bitcoin, then you would see a colossal rise in the value of the dollar because it's 100% transparent. If the government said, this is our account, you could look over there and see that account and see how much Bitcoin they had, then you've got something that we can trust. At this point, I heard when I was younger that all this gold's in Fort Knox. So what did we all say as kids when you were my age? Oh, the gold's in Fort Knox. Hell if I know. I had no clue. I saw pictures. Those could have been painted bricks. No clue if that was real gold or not. I'm good. I don't see anybody in here. Is that possible? You could say, yeah, right. Well, it probably wouldn't be 1-to-1. It'd probably be like, okay, for every dollar you have that buys you, 1/millionth of an ounce or something. There'd be some conversion ratio. But at least we'd have 11 trillion in gold, right? I think it might be more than that. It's still in the ground or on a meteor out in space, maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't trust it. Absolutely wouldn't trust it at all. But if we went to something like Bitcoin that's transparent, I would find that very interesting to see. But they wouldn't do it. The government can't afford to do it. Right now, we're in such a spending spree that if we locked in our currency at a specific value and guaranteed that there was a real asset backing it, we'd bankrupt ourselves. We'd bankrupt ourselves. It'd be horrible. Yeah, right, Gary? If we had Bitcoin, or it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. It could be another crypto that's limited in supply, right? That's the key. It has to be limited in supply. So Ethereum won't work because Ethereum is infinity, essentially. But it has to be limited in supply and then be open source so we can all look in at any moment and log into an account and go, oh, okay, yeah, we've got that amount sitting on that. It's be trustworthy, transparent, honest. We would all know it. That would be a totally different ballgame. But it won't happen, right? Because we have to keep printing more and more money. Over time, we have to keep devaluing the dollar because we have to service this debt. It's this vicious spiral that I don't think is going to change anytime soon. We'll see. We'll see. There's 244 tons of gold in the world. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of golds or metals so much is, man, we just saw this meteor fly out. I don't know if you guys saw it the other day. Yesterday, there was a 3-foot wide meteor that flew over California or flew into the Pacific Ocean. What if that thing's solid gold? Is it possible? Sure. Some of these asteroids, and you see all these movies like The Expanse are out there mining asteroids and stuff, and what if they find an asteroid that's just solid gold or solid platinum or solid palladium or silver, whatever, the value of gold and silver is going to plummet. Now that's obviously far-fetched space idea stuff, but see, now you guys got me on a random old topic, and you're trying to get me to an hour show. I see what you're doing here. I know your plan. All right. Does any country back its currency with gold? Yes. Off the top of my head right now, I can't think. I know that the Swiss were one of the last ones, the major ones. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. I'll have to look into that one, but I'm not off the top of my head, I don't know. And that's why Bitcoin is a future standard. I think so, Gary. And I hope so. I mean, I've positioned myself to be rewarded handsomely if in fact it does turn that way, but we can always be wrong, right? I could always be wrong. You know, I'm giving an introductory crypto presentation later, and you know, part of it is if you look back at the .com era, on the one slide I have 15 different companies on that slide. And that was back in 1998. If you look at those, did I know that any of those companies were going to be the leaders of industry today? No. But I could have anticipated that and said, I'll buy all 15. And I hope that some of them make it. And that's kind of what I'm done with my crypto. You know, I'm almost 40 positions in crypto. And I look at them and go, will this one be good? I don't know, but let me research it. Does it look good? If it does, then I'll buy some of it. So I built this portfolio, and 15 years down the road, I hope that I anticipate that some of those will be very successful and some won't. By the way, in that portfolio example I used with the .com era, out of the 15 companies, only 2 made it 15 years. And you think, man, that's a horrible failure rate. You were right, 2 out of 15, loser. No, because the rate of return on those 2 was so astronomically high, it gave like a 1,000,000% rate of return, some crazy number gain. Anyway. Yeah, it's not true gold, it's digital gold. But the values of gold, which is what everybody wanted, which was scarcity, and you can't make more of it, and you have to extract it, that was on the core of gold value. Bitcoin's even better than that. Okay, let me wrap up here before it turns into an hour show. We had interesting news today. Jolt's job openings was worse than expected. You had HPI data that was slightly better, and consumer price Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index, slightly better than expectations, but still trending down. So we've been on this pretty steep downtrend for the past 7 months here on housing prices. Now for tomorrow, you do have some big news. You got ADP non-farm employment change and our advanced GDP numbers coming out. Pending home sales, crude oil inventories. Very interested to see what happens with this crude oil inventories number. As we saw what happened last time that number came out, oil dropped significantly. Now, as far as earnings for tomorrow, and I can wrap up here before a 1-hour show, here's your big names for tomorrow. Microsoft, Meta, Eli Lilly, AbbVie, Caterpillar, Amgen, Bookings, and that's pretty much it. And Airbus, all right? So there we go. That's your economic calendar and earnings calendar for tomorrow. Let's see. Google says all the gold ever mined. Yeah, it's worth about 12 trillion just in FYI. Yeah, and I think it will fit inside of 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools is the stat I read one time. Crazy. Bizarre. Excellent. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. If you have anything you want to comment on, feedback, things you want to talk about, things you want to discuss on our Wednesday show, let me know. Sorry if I'm a little bit tired today. It's been a really long, busy day. Tomorrow's a little bit lighter, and I'm actually going to be setting up a studio in Irvine. I'm pretty excited about this. And we're going to go a new studio. Hopefully, I'll get set up tomorrow for a lot of recording of on-demand. We're going to redo a lot of our on-demand content for the community, so it should be good. So thank you guys so much for your participation. Love having these open discussions with you. Thank you so much. Send me questions, comments at YouTube or tradermerlin@gmail.com. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.